What's up, y'all? I'm Spade, and this is my review of Fantastic Four First Steps, directed by Matt Shakman, 2025. Yo, what's up? I know it's been a minute, my bad. I've been sick. I've been meaning on getting this out. Much respect to you guys for being patient. Thank you for everyone who's actually been waiting for this video. Please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I'm a small-time creator, and I appreciate all you guys who like, comment, and interact with the videos, the posts, the music, all of it. Alright, so first we'll talk about the things I like, then we'll talk about the things I didn't like, I'll give my rating, and then we'll talk about all things Marvel. Now here's your spoiler warning. Fantastic Four has been out for a while. It's out on Disney+, so if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Near the end of the video, I'm also going to talk about Daredevil, Punisher, Doomsday, Spiderman, Brand New Day. So if you don't want any spoilers or leaks for those movies or shows, here's your warning now. So first things first, the stuff I liked. Overall, I thought this was a pretty good movie. We've had two failed Fantastic Four franchises by Fox. Both of them did not hit the mark. The one that came out before this, Fan Four Stick, was insanely bad. The first Fox one was alright, but it was a little boring. The second one was better, but it was still kind of lame with Galactus as a big cloud, and there was not enough action. This one, I think, did the characters justice. There was a real love for the comics, for the 60s comics, and the actual origins of these characters. I really dug the multitude of Easter eggs throughout the movie. There were so many, I can't even begin to get into them. But right from the start of the movie, I knew this was going to be different. They incorporated a whole bunch of comic panels. They talked about a whole bunch of deep-cut villains and events in the Fantastic Four's lives. And the film had a cool retro-futuristic look and a very distinct style. I personally really dug that. I think that a lot of the more recent Marvel movies are lacking in style. They aren't letting the directors really run with it and do their own thing and be creative. Things have been seeming a little cookie cutter, and while maybe this story was a little bit by the numbers, the visuals were insane. The cinematography was dope, and again, it had its own style that was maintained throughout the entire film. I thought all the characters were pretty good. Pedro Pascal, I gotta say, I wasn't really sold on him as Reed Richards. I'm still not 100% because he does not look the part to me. I just don't picture Reed with a mustache. And I also feel like Reed is a more arrogant character. He is the smartest man on earth, and he does love and care for his family, but I think that the main quality of Reed that wasn't really carried across in this movie is that his intellect does hinder him in the fact that it makes him cold and sometimes seem to be uncaring or apathetic. Now, I mean, while the characters were good, they did a great job with what was written, nothing really stood out to me. There wasn't really a wow moment with any of these characters. I didn't love them, but I thought they did a good job. The number one thing that I liked about this movie, hands down, was Galactus. For a very long time, since I was a little kid, before I even really knew what Galactus was, I saw his designs, I think on the internet somewhere or in some comic, and read that he's an entity from the universe before ours, and that always really captivated me. And just his design was really cool and unique. First time you see him in the movie, the Fantastic Four are standing on the edge of some kind of platform, and he's just enormous, looming in the background, and his eyes lit up. That, for me, was perfection. That's the type of stuff I want to see in these Marvel movies. I'll bring it back to a shittier movie, Thor: Love and Thunder. They had a lot of cool-looking images in that movie directly from the comics, but the story serving it did nothing. These were just kind of inserted in there as maybe an afterthought, or maybe they filmed it before and the script sucked. This movie was written well, where each of these images and iconic moments made sense, and the visuals just overall were crazy. My favorite sequence was the chase with the Silver Surfer through space. One of the illest moments is when they tried to trap her in the black hole within the singularity. Susan Storm is going into labor. The stakes are really high, and even with all this advanced tech and all the knowledge of the combined four, the Silver Surfer is doing things that they can't anticipate and they've never seen before. And I liked that. It was really well-written action. Now for the things I didn't like. So to be honest, I didn't really like the fact that they ditched Norrin Radd for Shala Bal, Silver Surfer. I'm gonna nerd out here and I'm gonna say that Shala Bal is from a different universe, Earth X, while Norrin Radd, I think he's from the main 616 Marvel universe. In the main universe, Shala Bal is his wife, and he chooses to serve Galactus to save her life and his planet. Similarly, they did it with Shala, but instead of Norrin being the one she saved, she chose her daughter. And I think the story with Norrin Radd makes more sense because once he comes to Earth and he sees the love that Susan Storm has for Reed Richards and her brother, it reminds him of her and inspires him to fight back against Galactus. You know, the whole power of love, save the world with the power of love. It's corny, but it makes sense. And I think it's a stronger story than Shala Bal just randomly deciding, okay, you know what I've been doing is bad and I'm gonna stop now. Because I feel like there must have been so many other planets that were out there that she's destroyed and nobody has ever tried to reach out to her at this point. I find it hard to believe that the Fantastic Four are the first ones to try and make contact and stop what she's doing from happening. So I did feel like that was probably the weakest part of the story. In terms of visuals, she looked dope. The actor did a great job playing her, but I felt like there was no chemistry between her and the other characters. And at the end, she really does fly out of nowhere to save the day. Another issue I had with this movie was that it was very by the numbers in terms of script. Family, they have a kid, now the kid's in danger and we gotta save the kid. So it's something I've seen 100 times before. It's something that I've been tired of since maybe the 2010s. It's very redundant, but they're lucky that the director had a great style. They're lucky they had wicked characters like Galactus, the Thing, and Silver Surfer to make it visually pop, because if they didn't have those exciting moments laced throughout, I think people would be falling asleep. And to be honest, me being a hardcore Marvel fan, I think that I enjoyed those moments and I will enjoy those moments more than the casual fans. So even though they were super dope to me, like Silver Surfer and the black hole going into space, all the science stuff with Reed Richards, the Easter eggs with Mole Man and Latveria, I dig that. I can soak that in, but the average person is not going to pick up on these things. I think for the average person, the space chase is going to be the main attraction of this movie. And that brings me to the next thing I didn't really like, was how they ended the movie. I feel like we didn't really get to see the four use their powers too much. They were just running around a lot. The end fight with Galactus wasn't as intense as I thought it would be, and Reed Richards can stretch way further than what Galactus was doing to him. I think it's something like 4 football fields or 12 football fields. So I mean, he could literally wrap up Galactus by himself, although Galactus would probably break him. But that's one thing we've never seen in these movies before, is Reed Richards really going ham and using his elastic powers. That's something I was interested to see in this movie, but there wasn't too much of it. What we did get was cool, but there should have been more. So overall, this one, I thought it was good, not great. I thought it had wicked special effects, cool action sequences, a very distinct style, lots of Easter eggs and love for the original material, but the story was a little predictable by the numbers. There wasn't enough cool action, and the characters weren't as strong as I'd like them to be. So I'll give Fantastic Four First Steps 7 out of 10. Let me know if you agree, if you disagree. Let's talk about it in the comments. And now let's talk about the MCU going into Doomsday. So one thing I wanted to talk about to bridge the gap between these two topics is the introduction of Franklin Richards. I didn't touch on this in my review because it's neither here nor there whether it made the movie better or not if he was in it or not. But I do think introducing him this early is kind of weird. He is a Deus Ex Machina type of character, meaning he can just do anything that he wants to do. His powers, if you know from the comics, is he can manipulate reality. He's actually a very big player in the Days of Future Past story with the X-Men. And I do think he's probably gonna play a big role with this whole multiverse thing going on. I think Dr. Doom might kidnap him, might use him to traverse the multiverse. He might use him to make Battleworld. So let's back up. The next movies that are coming out in this order: Spider-Man Brand New Day, Avengers Doomsday, and Avengers Secret Wars. All of these movies I think will have to do with each other, and I think Fantastic Four is the bridge movie leading into Doomsday. Now, I was talking about Franklin Richards. So in Avengers Doomsday, I do think it's safe to assume that we're gonna see a whole bunch of universes collapsing. The old X-Men universe is gonna collapse. The old Spider-Man universe might collapse. Maybe they're the same universe, I don't know. And then I think what Doctor Doom's goal is going to be is to gather up what's left of all these destroyed universes and make his own planet or his own world. This is what happened in the Secret Wars 2 comic by Jonathan Hickman, and also in the lead up to that, the Time Runs Out story. We saw characters from different universes fighting each other, trying to save their own worlds. And then at the end, Doctor Doom, Molecule Man, and Doctor Strange basically took the Beyonders' powers, and Doctor Doom became a god. And he was using Molecule Man as kind of a repository of his power. And I think that he's probably going to do the same thing with Franklin Richards, because we don't have a Molecule Man, and to introduce Molecule Man at this time is kind of wild if you ask me. So I think Franklin is going to play that role. All right, you still following me? I also think that in Spider-Man Brand New Day, we are going to get a psychic. And I think that psychic is going to be Jean Grey of the X-Men, played by Sadie Sink. There's a lot of rumors going on about this. Big shout to my guy Ulysses. I was talking to him online about this, and just all the signs that are there kind of pointing towards these psychic entities just doing stuff. Something weird's going on. So Ulysses was saying, and I kind of got this feeling too, that a lot of the voices the Punisher was hearing, you know, the PTSD he still seems to be going through, might be the work of, you know, maybe Jean Grey. And then his involvement in Spider-Man Brand New Day has something to do with that. Now, I don't know. This is just wild speculation. Don't get me wrong, but you know, we were talking about this, so shout out my guy. I do think that Brand New Day is gonna have something to do with some kind of magic or psychic, or, you know, some kind of universe, multiverse thing. It's really hard to tell now just because of where Spider-Man's at and because of the events of the last movie. But just the fact that, you know, he's literally recovering from a spell, from magic, and it seems that there are people with psychic abilities running around in this movie, really makes me feel like it's treading the same water as a Franklin Richards, hinting towards a Secret Wars 2 type of deal. And then, of course, after Doomsday, we literally have a movie called Secret Wars. In Secret Wars 2, they were also using a whole bunch of psychics to like manipulate the world. So that's another thing to keep in mind. I think, you know, for these next 3 movies, Marvel really got to pull out all the stops. I'm seeing a lot of similarities with Spider-Man and Fantastic Four. I'm thinking that they're gonna show all those iconic comic cover shots at the beginning of the movie and explain what Spidey's up to, and then we're gonna get into the story. And I mean, I just told you what I thought about it. Other than that, I have no idea what the hell is gonna go on. Spider-Man's in there, Punisher's in there, the Hulk is in there, there's potentially Jean Grey in there. But the good thing about this, and why I bring this up, is that it has me actually excited for once. Doctor Doom 2 is one of my favorite characters, right behind Galactus. He's always been one of my favorite characters. MF Doom is one of my favorite rappers. And so I'm excited for him to have his debut in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, to see him step on the screen in live action properly. I'm gonna touch on Daredevil, Born Again. Season 2 wasn't that great. It was good, but it wasn't that great. And I'm hoping that these next few movies don't have that vibe of where it was almost there, but it didn't make it. It was too soft. There was not enough action. There was not enough maturity to the writing. It didn't make sense that, you know, there's this whole citywide event happening. Wilson Fisk is the mayor. Where's Spider-Man? Where's the Punisher? Even the Punisher show didn't really explain, where was he? He was just going crazy in a room by himself the whole time? I'm not sure. Now, I thought both of those shows were entertaining, but man, I just want so much more from these characters. I want Matt Murdock to wear the black suit and for it to mean something, for him to go Badlands, Shadowlands style, for him to actually start really hurting people, to get serious. It seemed like he was still holding back. The Punisher too just seemed to be in the same state of mind that he was when we left him last, and it's odd to me, and that's why I'm saying maybe there's some psychic person messing with him, because he should have moved on. But like I always say, Marvel comic books, it's all about the action, the rule of cool, and the Punisher special, it was cool. I'm really hoping that these next few projects are not just cameo fests, are not just Easter egg fests. I hope that they are well thought out stories, they make sense, they do the characters justice, and that we get a good wrap up to the MCU as we know it. I do think, and I've said this before, that after Secret Wars, Marvel will reboot, or do a soft reboot, meaning new actors, new storylines, restarting certain characters' storylines, and introducing more characters into the world that they now have the rights for. Mainly, I'm talking about the Fox characters. Something that does concern me though, because we're reaching this part of the journey with Marvel, is if they are ever going to be able to get Spider-Man and the Hulk in the MCU proper without having to wrestle with Sony and Universal. Because for me, those are the two characters I'm always the most excited about seeing in these movies. The Hulk was shafted throughout the entire MCU because I guess Universal is just holding on to the rights for him so hard. Maybe Disney and Marvel have to pay Universal to use him. I heard during Infinity War that's why Hulk wasn't there. He was supposed to come out of the Hulkbuster, like break out of it, but because they couldn't negotiate or something, that didn't happen. I could be wrong, but I think that's what I heard. So if they are gonna end this, I honestly suggest that Marvel just kind of goes away for a little while. 1 or 2 years, just keep it silent before you start the content machine again. Because I'll end with saying this. So for the entire time that I've been doing this online, I've had more criticism for these movies than praise. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, like you don't like this stuff, or like, you're a hater. And I gotta say that this isn't nostalgia talking when I'm telling you that the stuff from my childhood, Batman the animated series, X-Men the animated series, the Spider-Man animated series, were better written, incorporated these characters better, encapsulated them better. The Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoon from, I think it's 2009. I was 19 at the time. I watched that cartoon. I was like, damn, this is better than the MCU. The characters are better. It's closer to the storyline of the comics, which is a better story. And for me, I was always thinking, there's no reason you can't tell these stories the way they are. The main reason why I understand before was because they didn't own the rights to a lot of these characters. Now that they do own the rights to a whole bunch of them, mainly the X-Men, I want to see effort. I just don't want to see the content machine, because that's what we've been getting for the entirety of phase 4 and 5. After Infinity War, I can't even really tell you where the story is gone. It's gone all over the place. I understand that originally they were leading up to Kang the Conqueror, but even so many things were just left in the wind. The end of the second Doctor Strange movie. We haven't seen Thea, Charlize Theron's character, for like 8 years. I don't even know if she's ever coming back. They mentioned incursions, and it was never mentioned ever again. It was never really touched on. I guess, yeah, the Spider-Man movie was about that, but it didn't feel like it had anything to do with the rest of the Marvel universe. It felt like that was just a Spider-Man problem. And Doctor Strange was just so nonchalant with doing it as well. You ask yourself the question, why hasn't this happened before? So it's just shitty writing. I'll also say this, I think that the worst direction that they could go in at this point is to try and do this Marvel Now, or the all new, all different Marvel era with Miss Marvel and I don't even know who else is involved, but that newer generation of characters is not popular, and they were never popular. I think honestly Miss Marvel is the one that grew on most people because she's a unique character, but she's not the same in the show as she is in the comics. She has completely different powers. So who knows where we go from here. This whole era of IP is really weird. It feels like we're not getting stories, we're just getting content. If you know me, you know I want good story. I want exciting action. I want cool cinematography. And that's what I'm hoping for the future of the MCU. So that's it. This was a long one. I know if you're still here, yo, thank you. Again, please like the video, subscribe if you haven't. It really does help. It really helps. The machines are taking over. Help me fight them. But yeah, let me know. What are your hopes for the future of Marvel? What did you think of all the last stuff that came out? Phase 4, 5, all these bullshit ass shows and badly written movies. Let me know. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace.